University's Team Moonwalkers are the third place winner. Are there any Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University students here in the room who would like to come up and get their photograph taken with our project manager, Rich Jonabeck? They're probably out exploring the visitor center. We'll get their picture later, Rich. Now, our top two teams are getting the Pay It Forward Award in addition to plaques for winning STEM engagement. The Pay It Forward Award is given to teams that best conduct impactful educational engagement events in their community or further than that. Educational engagement includes instructional hands-on activities where participants engage in learning a STEM-related concept by actively participating in an activity. Each challenge activity that was led will choose the top teams. Each challenge activity lead will choose the top teams, have chosen the top teams from each challenge for consideration of final awardees. So, both our second place STEM engagement winner and our first place STEM engagement winner are getting these additional Pay It Forward awards. And the Pay It Forward awards are amazing because they come with a flag that was flown aboard the Artemis 1 mission, an actual space-flown flag. This is not a sticker. This is not a patch. This is an actual flag that flew in space. So both of these next two teams are going to get that. Our second place winner for STEM engagement, they mentored first Tech Challenge teams and they developed engaging presentations on the Artemis program and lunar exploration, complemented by activities like building lunar landers and launching paper rockets. Their programming reached students from elementary through high school, and their plans to develop a miniature Lunabotics challenge shows forward thinking. Anybody think they know who it is? I'm pleased to announce the University of Virginia's Mechatronics and Robotics Society as second place winner. Come on up. Bring your whole team right over here to get your picture with Rich. We will be giving you a plaque that goes along. Go ahead and head over there for a picture. We don't have the plaque here today, but you will get a plaque in the mail, I presume. University of Virginia. Squeeze in tight, squeeze in tight. Make 2 rows if you have to. Turn sideways if you have to. They were not ready for a photo. I should have probably warned them. Sorry, that's me. That's on me. We have multiple cameras, so their shirts are black on the black background. All right, University of Virginia, second place for STEM engagement. And now for our first place STEM engagement award. What does educational STEM outreach look like? It's creating engaging presentations that can hold the attention of middle and high school students while teaching them about robotic systems and programming concepts. It's developing interactive activities where students can apply the scientific method to engineering challenges, and it's demonstrating the ability to translate complex technical knowledge about space exploration missions into content that inspires the next generation of engineers. The winning team exemplified these qualities through their innovative hands-on activities like their Racing Robots program and Circuits workshop. Anyone? They designed terrain courses and provided 3D printed components for students to experiment with wheel designs and soil mechanics. Which demonstrated the kind of technical communication skills that every engineering student should aspire to develop. Their approach allowed students to test different solutions and even iterate on designs. With the team, sometimes 3D printing improved wheel designs for future events. The team's circuit building activities culminated in Jeopardy-style assessment games, showing their thoughtfulness in evaluating learning outcomes. Anybody know which team I just described? I am pleased to announce the University of Utah's Utah Student Robotics team as first place for STEM engagement. Come get your space-flown flag and come get your picture taken over here. Your whole team, come get your picture taken over here with project manager Rich Jonabeck. More black shirts. We didn't think this through, did we, Rich? Who knew all the teams were going to wear black shirts? All right, they're going to get their picture taken in a little bit, but let's give them a big round of applause for winning first place for STEM engagement, and congrats to all 3 teams for their STEM engagement accomplishments. Thank you for inspiring the next generation to pursue STEM careers. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. 2 rows if you have to. All right. Congrats, all 3 teams. All right. STEM engagement is so important, and the results, you can't even imagine the downstream results for decades, possibly. All right, now we're going to do presentations and demonstrations awards. First, we're going to give a First Steps Award, and the First Steps Award is for the best presentation by a first-year team. How many first-year teams do we have in here? Raise your hand if you're a first-year team. Well, the winner of that award, oh, they're not in this room, I'm sorry, is the University at Buffalo. Are they in this room? Anybody from University of Buffalo in this room? All right. If they're in Florida because they were at UCF last week, so maybe later we can get our picture with them. So again, we don't have plaques to hand you today, but you will get plaques. Is this correct? Plaques will be in the mail. We're going to give first, second, and third prizes for presentations and demonstrations, but we have an honorable mention. The honorable mention for presentation and demonstration goes to the University of Alabama. You want to do a photo? Do you want to do a photo, University of Alabama? Are they at lunch? They're right there. They weren't even hiding. They were right there. Congrats, University of Alabama. Now, for third place for presentations and demonstrations, University of Miami. Is anyone here from the University of Miami? I would like to get their picture taken. Are they in the room? I heard a yell. Was that a happy yell or? All right, second place for presentation and demonstration. Colorado School of Mines. Come up here and get your picture taken. Come get your picture taken with our presentation and demonstrations judge, Rebecca Mazzone. Once again, black shirts on a black background. On your way out, we'll take votes on what color you want the background to be next year. All right, this is it. The final award for this award ceremony today. First place for presentation and demonstration is going to be given to the University of Utah. Come on over. Congratulations. They are psyched. This is a big team. We need 2 lines at least. Tall people in back. You know the drill. And Pit Boss, if you can hear me, Pit Boss, it would be nice to announce at the end of this award ceremony what time our next team will run. Thank you, Pit Boss. So stay tuned for an announcement of what time our next team is going to run, which is Virginia, right? Am I remembering right? Virginia, they're ready. We're going to take a break for lunch and keep listening. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, what are they? I don't have it in front of me. Tomorrow's awards during this lunch break are going to be system engineering papers, so get excited for that tomorrow. So that concludes our mini awards ceremony. Enjoy your lunch, and make sure you are back in time to watch Virginia run, which will be announced here soon.
What President Kennedy said was, we choose to go to the moon and do other things, not because it's easy, but because it's hard.
The cost of failure is much higher than the cost of scrubbing. We have an obligation to get this right.
This is a whole new vehicle, a whole new technology, a whole new purpose of going back to the moon in preparation to go to Mars. And yes, it's hard.
The countdown to T-0 starts approximately 2 days before launch. Teams inside the Launch Control Center have been working around the clock, powering up each section of the rocket and configuring the launch pad to support the 8.8 million pounds of thrust our moon rocket will generate at liftoff.
It is a new creation. It is a new rocket and a new spacecraft to send humans to the moon on the very next flight.
Today, we make history. With the launch of the most powerful rocket the world has ever seen, we are taking the first step in humanity's return to the moon.
I can tell you there's an energy and there's an excitement around the Kennedy Space Center, I would say, across the agency and all around the Space Coast as we get closer and closer to this launch.
This mission will validate that the rocket and capsule do perform as expected, before future Artemis missions send astronauts to the lunar surface.
We have worked really hard to get here. The team has done an absolutely outstanding job, and we're up to the challenge, and I'm really looking forward to a successful test flight.
You are looking at the world's most powerful rocket and Orion spacecraft live on Launch Pad 39B. Artemis 1 embodies the hard work of thousands across the world, determined to explore for the benefit of all. I'm Megan Cruz, and this is NASA astronaut Kayla Barron.
When I first walked up and saw the view from the desk here, I was just blown away.
This is the moment when it comes to the countdown, and then tension starts, and well, let's cross fingers, everything works well. Tension is rising, and we are fully excited here.
Over the past few years, teams have put in thousands of hours, performing simulations and rehearsals to ensure that they are ready for this moment.
As our 0 hour approaches for the Artemis generation, we do have a heightened sense of anticipation, and there's definitely excitement amongst the team members. We've noticed just the overall mood and focus within the team is definitely a positive one.
Now, with all systems configured correctly, the launch director gives the final go for liftoff.
On behalf of all the men and women across our great nation who have worked to bring this hardware together
To make this day possible. And for the Artemis generation, this is for you. At this time, I give you a go to resume count and launch Artemis 1.
This mission goes with a lot of hopes and dreams of a lot of people. It's no longer the Apollo generation. It's the Artemis generation. And that brings a whole new world of discoveries.
T-minus 50 seconds and counting. The Space Launch System is now counting down to liftoff of Orion on its maiden voyage to the moon. And here we go.
10.
Hydrogen burn-off igniters initiated. 7, 6, 5. 4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Well, if you're just joining us, welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center, where we just watched Artemis 1 launch, our first step towards our next adventure into deep space.
With Orion off the ground, Mission Control in Houston takes the reins. Our nation is returning to the moon.
And we have worked hard as a team. You guys have worked hard as a team for this moment. This is your moment. It is not by chance that you are here today. So I want you to look around at this team and know that you have earned it. You have earned your place in the room. You've earned this moment. You have earned your place in history.
The successful launch of SLS is just the beginning. Orion will spend the next several weeks journeying around the moon, sending flight data back to teams here on Earth for real-time analysis. During its mission, Orion reached speeds traveling about 30 times as fast as the speed of sound.
This dramatic video of the Earth-Moon transit that took place showed and punctuated the fact that we were pressing away from our home planet to a distance of some 268,000 miles away from Earth, further than any human-rated spacecraft traveled. For a spacecraft designed to return humans to Earth, eclipsing the mark set by the Apollo 13 vehicle back in 1970.
After several weeks of flight, it was time for Orion to return home.
A half-century later, NASA's newest moon explorer, the Orion spacecraft, is barreling its way back home after circumnavigating the moon and beyond in an elliptical distant retrograde orbit. Now less than 2 hours away from splashing down in the Pacific Ocean west of Baja, California, to complete its shakedown mission.
Like the Apollo missions of the past, Orion will have to endure incredibly high temperatures during re-entry of Earth's atmosphere.
A journey that began with the power of the launch of the Space Launch System 25.5 days ago, about to reach its final minutes in the searing heat of re-entry, where temperatures around Orion will build up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
While re-entering Earth's atmosphere, the spacecraft slowed to about 300 miles per hour. As it continued its descent, Orion's parachute system, containing 11 total parachutes, deployed once it reached approximately 9,000 feet and a speed of about 130 miles per hour.
And there it is, high over the Pacific, America's new ticket to ride to the moon and beyond now in view. Orion under its chutes descending toward splashdown.
These parachutes help slow the crew module to a much more manageable speed, roughly 20 miles per hour, for a water landing off the coast of California.
Splashdown. From Tranquility Base to Taurus Littrow to the tranquil waters of the Pacific, the latest chapter of NASA's journey to the moon comes to a close. Orion, back on Earth.
We've got a perfect view, a front row seat to the Orion splashdown. It's simply beautiful out here. That is a human-rated capsule that went around the moon and returned and is now in the Pacific Ocean.
I think I can speak for the whole dive team that we're honored to be part of history and to be part of something so monumentous, and just ready and excited to go out and do this.
When Orion was deemed safe to approach, team members jumped into the water and attached hardware that steadied the capsule.
What we do at NASA really is all about collaborations, and the collaborations that we've had with the Department of Defense in particular over the past many years, their hard work and their dedication as they went through a great deal of planning, hardware development and processes, and a lot of practicing to get to this point and make it look easy.
And that team, made of a combination of NASA and Department of Defense personnel, has put in years of work to make sure that they were ready.
Melissa Jones, the recovery director, just came from outside the ship's control center where she was monitoring and, of course, managing her team in the midst of this recovery. So, Melissa, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming. We've been working this mission for a while, and we've done a ton of training. And every time you do training with a mock-up capsule, you don't have any of that. You don't have parachutes. You don't hear it coming back to the atmosphere, the sonic booms and all of that kind of stuff. And today that actually happened. It's just amazing.
You know, this mission, this spacecraft and this team exceeded all expectations. For the last 25 and a half days, we've been every day looking ahead to the next flight to see how we can improve on where we are today so that we can fly a safe and successful mission with our astronauts next time around.
Once stabilized, the team secured the spacecraft with hardware and rope assemblies and towed it to the Navy ship. The dive team then connected Orion to a series of ropes from inside the back of the ship, known as the well deck, to safely and securely pull the capsule inside. With Orion safely secured inside the ship, teams made their way to Naval Base San Diego, where the capsule was offloaded and prepped for its cross-country trip back to its home base, Kennedy Space Center.
This is really the start of a campaign of several missions to get humans back to the moon and beyond to Mars. So there's still a lot to be done, and this is just the beginning.
Kennedy just stunned everybody with the Apollo generation.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out.
And said that we were going to achieve what we thought was impossible.
Of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
Many things have happened since, but we knew we were going back. This is the program of going back to the moon to learn, to live, to invent, to create in order to explore beyond. Oh, it's a new day. A new day has dawned. An Artemis generation is taking us there.
Did you know there's been over 1 million registrations in NASA's virtual guest program since May 2020? From your neighbor to the Crew 5 astronauts, you might be surprised who is a NASA virtual guest.
Do you have Mars 2020? I do. Do you have James Webb? Sure do. Do you have Crew 5?
Well, I've got it here, and you guys have it here, but I missed it here.
We conducted over 200 science experiments and technology demonstrations on our mission. We loved being part of Expedition 68. We even remembered a virtual guest passport for Einstein, our freefall indicator, but we forgot to register and missed the stamp.
Even if you're doing existing research, never miss a stamp from NASA's virtual guest program. Whether you're en route to the International Space Station or located anywhere around the globe, register at nasa.gov/virtual guests to receive updates on missions and milestones. As a virtual guest, you will receive curated resources and a stamp for your passport following a successful launch.
Remember, you only get the updates and stamp if you register.
I joined. I won't miss it next time.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
It's been 50 years since we've been to the moon, and we've got a great program called Artemis. We're going back. The Apollo program was a test for the American people that you can do what you set out to do. All it took was turning to it and making it happen.
We are go for a mission to the moon at this time.
Engines on, 5, 4, 3, 2, all engines running. Launch commit, liftoff. We have liftoff, 49 minutes past the hour.
I think the characteristic that I remember most of the Saturn V was the noise. The noise was enormous and it was almost impossible to communicate.
We're go, train type, we're go.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
The landing to me was a great celebration. The nation was almost euphoric.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
There are so many things that we could eventually learn about our universe and the spacecraft that we use exploring.
We are a nation of explorers. During Apollo, we were on national TV literally every day because we were doing something visible that Americans could see and they could feel and say, look what we are doing. And I believe Artemis is going to come up and say, look what we are capable of and what we are doing now.
Artemis will stand on the shoulders of Apollo. They're going to have the eyes of the world on them when they start down this trail.
The science of a space flight is one that will continue to inspire. Going to the moon generates technology, more communications, more computer technology, more sophistication in manufacturing that help us in everyday life.
We have a generation that is ready, a generation with that technology, a generation with the education. Artemis represents the future in space. It is our next big step, and it is time to take it.
The crawler transporter is it's a machine that goes and picks up the mobile launcher, the SLS rocket with Orion. It's basically the cornerstone of the mobile launch concept. Without the crawler, you couldn't transport the mobile launcher and the vehicle from the VAB to the pad or the pad back to the VAB. And it was designed and built for the Apollo program to move Saturn V's to the launch pad. Since then, we've modified it and used it to move the entire shuttle program. And after the shuttle program, we did extensive modifications, and now it's to be used to move Artemis to the launch pad. The crawler is 136 feet long from end to end. It's 114 feet wide from the edge of the truck to the other edge of the truck. It weighs 6.6 million pounds. It has the power to do 2 miles an hour, but you never want to go that fast. Generally, we're around 0.83 for SLS. Artemis will be one of the heaviest loads we've ever carried and one of the tallest loads we've carried. I am exceptionally proud of our team. They're very talented, they're very committed, and they're just all around good team. I think any problem that crops up or anything that comes up, we'll fix it and we'll get moving again. And again, it starts right here with the crawler. So if we do our job and everybody else does theirs, man, we're gonna have a successful launch. We're going back to the moon. This is gonna be just fantastic.
The imagery that we're collecting on Artemis 1 and the mission itself is preparing to carry humans to the moon. The Orion Imager team is going to be monitoring every aspect of visual spacecraft performance for the entire duration of the mission. The first time that we're going to be live streaming digital video from a human-piloted spacecraft back down to the Earth from the vicinity of the moon. That's never been done before. What we'll be transmitting live streaming will be lower resolution, more compressed, because we have to fit it into a thinner pipe, if you will. Every one of these cameras is in its position where it is and is configured the way it is for a very specific reason. We're going to be monitoring anything that we can see with the cameras for spacecraft performance. The imagery teams at NASA are composed of dozens and dozens of very highly trained, very specialized people, engineers, technicians, analysts. If we can see it, we're going to try and keep an eye on it. Imagery has been invaluable throughout the history of NASA. We flew cameras on Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, all of that stuff that we saw while the astronauts were on the moon. It helps us detect the unknown unknowns. It allows us to see things that we didn't anticipate happening before. So when we do fly people on Artemis 2, we can have a high confidence that everything is working the way it should.
Our moon. It seems so close in the night sky, but getting there is really hard. But what if there was a way to change that? Only a few nations have successfully landed on the moon. As NASA sends astronauts back to the lunar surface, this time to stay, we will need to send science and technology instruments ahead of time to lay the foundation for human exploration. To make this happen, NASA is helping establish a commercial lunar economy. For the first time ever, there will be commercial delivery services to the moon. We are enabling American companies to send our payloads to the lunar surface for us. These delivery services will expand our capabilities for exploration, radically increasing the amount of science we can achieve. This high-risk, high-reward initiative will invest in and leverage the entrepreneurial spirit of American innovation to launch a commercial lunar marketplace, advancing technology and exploration for all of us. With this never-before-seen streamlined access to the moon, we will be able to make novel measurements and develop technologies that scientists have long wanted to do on the lunar surface. And as this new industry matures, this commercial delivery service for NASA and other customers could expand beyond the moon to other destinations in our solar system. And we can learn to live on another world because we are explorers.
Hi, I'm Janet Petro, the director of NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Hop in and let me show you what we're doing at Earth's premier spaceport. Let's go fly.
Our spaceport is proud to support the agency's goals to return to the moon in preparation for Mars. Our cooperation with commercial companies and international partners is greater than ever before as NASA embarks on a new and exciting era of space exploration. At Launch Complex 39B, the uncrewed launch of Artemis 1 was an exciting first step on our way back to the moon. Now, we are hard at work preparing the hardware, systems, and processes for the crewed Artemis 2 mission. Targeted for 2025, Artemis 2 will prove the Orion spacecraft and the Space Launch System rocket when the 4-astronaut crew ventures around the moon on a 10-day flight and returns safely to Earth. Meanwhile, we are launching missions to the International Space Station, continuing the research that helps us solve problems on Earth while proving capabilities we need for long-duration human space exploration. Microgravity, low Earth orbit offers a unique environment to study disease formation, test diagnostic tools and treatments, and advanced technologies like computers and robotics. NASA and our commercial partners are expanding the ability to launch crews, science, and cargo to the orbiting laboratory, which will ensure sustainable operations on the station for years to come. Nearby, in the Space Systems Processing Facility, teams are developing other exciting technologies we will need to live and work on the moon. Plant researchers are experimenting with new ways to grow food in space, and engineers are working on projects like 3D printing capability to build structures on the moon, rovers and instruments to find resources to help sustain a long-term presence, and electrodynamic dust shield technology that can repel the abrasive moon dust to protect our astronauts, their vehicles, and sensitive equipment. NASA's commercial providers help us launch a range of science missions that study our Earth, explore other planetary bodies, and reveal more about the origins of life and our universe. NASA works with both emerging and established commercial providers for launch and landing opportunities. These efforts benefit the U.S. economy and help grow the commercial market. By helping commercialize low Earth and cislunar orbits, NASA can reduce the cost to explore space and maximize benefits here on Earth. Another Kennedy team in the Space Systems Processing Facility is developing NASA's deep space commercial supply chain to procure the services needed to transport cargo, equipment, and consumables needed for human exploration of the Moon and Mars. For Artemis 3 and beyond, NASA will rely on commercial partners to support a regular cadence of moon landings. Our commercial partners are doing exciting work to develop the next generation of spacecraft and landers. The spaceport offers a prime location for companies like these to consolidate their manufacturing, testing, integration, and launch services in one location, helping them save costs while leveraging the spaceport's unique expertise and capabilities. Kennedy has supported growth at the spaceport through key power, water, and transportation upgrades and investments in fiber telecommunications. Through our master planning process, we will continue to forecast and plan improvements to enable responsible development into the future. And I couldn't be more proud of all the people at the Kennedy Space Center who make this all happen. You know, the processing, the integration, the launch operations, all carefully working together with our partners, with the Space Force, and with our NASA programs. The future's coming fast. Kennedy Space Center is leading the way. We're not just launching humanity's future, we're launching to the moon and beyond.
rocket.
This is really cool. We got some children that are on a bus, and they're going to come here to the vehicle assembly building, and the administrator and I are going to jump on the bus and surprise them.
We're going to give them the opportunity to come in and go up the elevator with the rocket.
It's so cool! Look at that thing! Oh, that's awesome!
Hey guys, would you like to see a moon rocket?
Yeah!
Because it is the future of our country, indeed the future of the world. And we saw what our space program does for science and technology and engineering and mathematics. We saw that in the Apollo generation.
All right, guys, what do you think? What I hope to achieve today is inspiring a new generation. I mean, the more people that we can get to see up close and personal this rocket, it's awe-inspiring. And I cannot wait till the launch. When America sees our rocket actually launch on a test flight to the moon, you know, it's just going to spark a whole new push for what we are doing.
Best day of my whole life ever. It's gonna be incredible. It was a dream come true.
This rocket is definitely going to the moon.
I think it's really amazing.
And I was actually really excited because I've never seen a rocket like this close up.
Now we have the Artemis generation. This is a new generation of us going back to the moon to learn and live, and then we're going to Mars.
of Artemis 1.
I'm Christina Cook. I'm a mission specialist.
I'm Jeremy Hansen. I'm a mission specialist.
I'm Victor Glover. I'm the pilot.
I'm Reed Wiseman. I'm the commander for the Artemis II mission to the moon.
To the moon.
To the moon.
To the moon.
When I was young, I had a poster of the Earthrise picture, the famous picture that was taken on Apollo 8. And the fact that it was a human behind the lens that made that picture so profound and changed how we all thought of our own home was so amazing to me. The moon is not just a symbol of thinking about our place in the universe. It's not just a symbol of exploration. It's actually a beacon for science. It's a beacon for understanding where we came from.
You know, pushing ourselves to explore is just core to who we are. It's a part of being a human. That's our nature. We go out there and we explore to learn about where we are, why we are, understanding the big questions about our place in the universe. The exploration we're doing is the first few steps on the path of getting humans to Mars.
The Artemis campaign of missions have set such an ambitious goal for humanity that it's inspiring contributions from around the globe. Not just one nation is inspired and moved by this, but nations from around the globe are coming together.
When I look at the Artemis II crew with Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, they want to go do this mission. They are keenly driven. They are humble to a fault. It is so cool to be around them. Artemis II is a huge mission, but I hope we will look back and realize that this was one tiny step in humans on Mars and a sustained presence on our moon.
Force stage engine start.
Artemis II will be NASA's first crewed flight test of the Space Launch System rocket
and Orion spacecraft around the moon.
To verify today's capabilities for humans to explore deep space
and pave the way for NASA's long-term human and scientific presence
on the lunar surface.
We are ready.
We are going
to the moon
for all humanity. We are Artemis.
You are watching NASA's Lunabotics 2025 finals being held here at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex here in Central Florida. And as we watch the Virginia team come into the arena, they're going to spend the next 10 minutes, maybe more, depending on when the timer starts. They're going to get a 10-minute timer to set up the robot, and obviously that timer hasn't started yet, so we're still getting stuff situated, getting all of our judges ready for the next event after our lunch break. You may remember before our lunch break, we had a really good run from Michigan Tech. And so I have grabbed one of the Michigan Tech students to ask a few questions of. So first, tell us your name, and make sure your mic is really close to your mouth.
Sure. So I'm Braden Moore. I'm the software lead for the Astro Huskies for Michigan Tech.
Software lead. If I remember correctly, you were one of the students that was in the control room during the run.
Correct. Yeah, I was the main mobility driver.
The one driving the robot.
Correct.
Awesome. That was going to be my my next question. Actually, my next question was going to be, what year are you in school?
We actually just graduated here a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So, previously a senior, now alumni of Michigan Tech.
Alumni. So, got any jobs lined up? Are you taking a break before you go into the workforce, or?
No, we got a job lined up down in up in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
So close to home.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, software lead and driver. Mm-hmm. So, software lead and driver.
Correct.
What do you, as a software lead, what do you want to tell us about the autonomy software, which we did notice on the, we were watching you guys in the control room to see if you were stick driving or not.
Yeah.
So what do you want to tell us about either generically the autonomy that is that is designed, and maybe a little bit about what happened to the autonomy, good or bad, in your actual run earlier?
Yeah. So we had attempted both traversal as well as excavation deposition autonomy. Traversal kind of went not quite as far as we had hoped it would, so we had to kill it just so we didn't damage the rover. For excavation deposition, it went very beautifully for one cycle. We were hoping for a few more, but we had a couple other errors in the program. So all things we've taken note of, prepared for the next time we give it a try.
Excellent. So you're confident that what you noticed can be fixed, and it's probably being fixed right now behind us in the pits.
That'd be something I work on, yeah.
You're hopeful that, well, let me ask, are you pleased with the outcome of that run? To me, I mean, the uninformed, it looked like a nice sized pile of regolith in the scoring zone. What are your thoughts? Are you pleased with it? You think you can do better? You know you can do better?
I know we can do better.
Yeah.
I've seen that rover be quite capable, especially of mobility. That excavation system is bulletproof. Finally today we found that perfect rock jammed in that last excavation trench.
That's why it ran backwards.
That it did.
I was confused. I was like, why in the world would that thing run backwards?
Yeah. There were a couple instances we noticed it hit something and jammed up, so we'd run it backwards briefly to try to free up that chain to try to get it running again. So we're pleased with the operation. All the systems were working nearly flawlessly. So we're just trying to perfect all of it and get it to all really line up for an even better run next time.
So this is a highly technical question, and this is your final question. What did you see in the control room that told you that a rock had jammed up? Was it just purely a camera stream, or was it spikes on a motor current, or both?
Yeah, it really is both of them. One of them we have a camera that's looking directly down at the excavation, kind of off at a front angle, looking at both the front wheels as well as that excavation bucket ladder. So we can see when that stalls, when it halts briefly. We can stop giving it power, wait for it to, something to settle, run it backwards briefly if need be. But we also are recording a lot of the data from our driver station, and so we can see afterwards as well, especially specifically what happened.
Excellent. Well, I won't keep you any longer. I know the rest of your team is back there working feverishly on the robot. But let's tease the viewers at home about when your next run, when your second run is going to be. So that's going to be tomorrow afternoon, correct?
Correct.
You'll do your second run, which means there's plenty of time between now and then to do some, I wouldn't say major repairs. Figure out what's going on with that rock. Get that rock out of there.
Yep.
I noticed they had to take the thing apart to get that rock out of there.
They did. It took some effort.
So put the thing back together. Put the thing back together.
Yep.
And fix anything else, and tweak anything else that you noticed, and have a good run. So, good luck on your second run, and don't panic between now and then. Just focus on fixing the problems, and good luck to you. Thanks for chatting with us.
I love it. Thank you, Kurt.
So we should be seeing University of Virginia robot in the arena, and they are running. The robot is running. How far are we into our 30-minute timer? There it is. There we've got the timer on the screen. We've just started this 30-minute run for Virginia, and their robot is almost through the obstacle zone. And as soon as it crosses that line that it's touching, it will be in the excavation zone and will be allowed to start digging in that area if it chooses. This Virginia robot has a four-wheel drive system similar to the Michigan Tech robot we saw earlier. I do not believe it has four-wheel steering. I believe this is a skid steer robot, meaning the two wheels on the right and the two wheels on the left are basically tied together. The two wheels on the right are tied together, so they either both go forward or they both go backwards, and the same for the two wheels on the left. They either both go forwards together or they both go backwards together, and this allows the robot to turn by setting one side of the wheels in the forward direction and one side of the wheels in the reverse direction, as you're seeing on the screen right there. We call that, in the industry, we call that skid steer. All right, so the Virginia team has positioned their robot in the excavation zone just outside the deposit zone. And you can see in this view, they're driving away from the camera while their center-mounted, a very large center-mounted bucket drum spins, and you can see every half of rotation a little opening, and that little opening is basically the teeth or the mouth or the jaw of this. And you can see the trench that they left behind. It actually gets deeper as the robot gets further away from the camera. So it's actually plunging this large bucket drum down deeper into the ground as it drives. Here's a reverse angle. You can see the trench that it's making. You can see how deep the treads are on these wheels. So I'll be really surprised if this robot ends up slipping its wheels and losing traction with such deep treads. But everything's a trade-off in robot design like this. With a skid steer robot, sometimes the treads get in the way while you're turning. So we can watch that the next time this robot turns. If it ever decides to turn again, it's possible that this team never needs to turn the, oh, we're slipping a little bit there. You can see the bucket drum hit something hard, I think, and stopped, and then the wheels started slipping. But they've recovered. They lifted up their bucket drum and relieved that pressure. The bucket drum has clear sidewalls, so you can actually see the Regulus simulant poking through there. Now they're going to come into the scoring zone, and I suspect they'll just spin their bucket drum reverse in order to dump out that material. And we should be able to see it come out this side. There it is. There's a lot in there. And this is just 4 minutes in, 3.5 actually. I love the clear bucket drum though, because we can really see what's going on inside there. All right, that was one run. Now, if we just check on the students real quick in the control room, we'll be able to see whether they're stick driving this robot or whether they're using autonomy. So these are the University of Virginia students controlling the robot in our Mission Control Center. You can see the student on the bottom of the screen is actually controlling a joystick. That's the controller for our pan tilt zoom camera. So they have chosen to use one of our pan tilt zoom supplied cameras. And then the other two students, looks like they both are driving joysticks. So one of them is likely driving the robot's chassis around, and then the other student is likely, no, I thought that was a joystick. It looks like it's not. So this the second student appears to, I'm sorry, that is the, I'm getting my hands confused. The third student, second from the top of the screen, appears to be holding the joystick and driving every part of this robot right now. So the second digging cycle for this robot, you can see the students chose a different path so that they wouldn't dig in the same spot. They basically took multiple passes at that first path, and it looks like they're taking multiple passes at this path. From this angle, you can kind of sort of see the pile that they had deposited earlier. From this angle, it does almost look like it's not all inside the scoring zone. As this bucket drum comes around, you can see it looks like smoke on the screen, but it's not. It's dust. This fine powder that actually makes up our lunar Regulus simulant is such a fine powder. Think of it like talcum powder. Think of it like baking flour. It's the particles are so tiny that they can become airborne pretty easily. And so that's what you saw, which looked like smoke coming out of the bucket drum, was actually dust from our Regulus simulant. Their bucket drum was so full when we saw that dust was coming out. Now this is something that you hate to see. If you have a four-wheel drive robot, you hate to see one of the wheels not spinning when it's supposed to be. When this robot turns or when this robot drives forward, I suspect that all 4 of these wheels are being commanded to turn. And if you see one of them not turning, that's usually an indication of a problem. Ooh, there's a lot coming out. They're definitely in the scoring zone now. It's very obvious. And that's quite a bit of material. So this is going to give this Virginia team a good score. We're not even 10 minutes into this run, and look at how much material they've deposited into the scoring zone. The students do appear to be driving the robot with a joystick, so they're apparently in their first run, apparently not going for autonomy points right now. But that's not to say that they won't try it later tomorrow afternoon in their second run. I looked up the University of Virginia the other day on the internet, and I found out that Thomas Jefferson actually founded the University of Virginia way back in 1819. Very cool. Did not know that. Alrighty, this pass was just a few inches, maybe 6 inches to the right of their previous pass. Which means they're going to get some fresh soil that wasn't already dug in earlier. A mix of fresh soil and earlier dug soil, which is probably what they were going for. Don't forget, though, as easy as this looks, what you've seen so far from Virginia is them only scraping off the top couple of inches, I would guess. So what you might remember from earlier is that the first couple inches of this simulated lunar regolith is very light and very fluffy. So once they get, you can see it, their drum is full. It can't hold anymore. It's just falling out the top. Once they get past this top couple of inches of light fluffy stuff, it's going to be interesting later on in this run to see if their digging system is still able to dig as efficiently, as productively as it appears to be digging right now. It's definitely going to take more traction, more power in order to dig the later, deeper layers down further than a couple inches below the surface. So far, a very impressive run. This is one of the beauties of a cylindrical bucket drum that digs. In order to dig, you rotate in one direction. In order to offload, you rotate the same exact motor in the opposite direction. So that's a lower number of actuators than some other robots that have more complicated mechanisms that need to transfer the excavated material from one part of the robot to another. This is a design trade-off that all teams have at the beginning of the year when they sign up for this competition, is what type of mobility system do we want to choose? How many wheels? Maybe we do tracks instead of wheels. How do we want to dig? Do we want a simpler system that's less likely to break down on us, but maybe is not as efficient as a more complex system. If you choose the more complex system, you might have higher productivity up until the point where something fails in that complexity, and then your productivity goes way down. So this is this makes for a really interesting competition every year to see all the different design choices that all these different teams come up with. And behind the scenes, what viewers are not going to be able to see is that each of these teams submit for judging reports that detail their entire design lifecycle process, and it will their reports will detail these design choices that each of these teams have made and explain why they chose them. And so the judges are able to see all the decisions that all of these teams made during this past school year to come up with the final robots that you're able to enjoy on the screen. So much time remaining. We're only halfway through this 30-minute run for University of Virginia. They just went back to an earlier spot. Looks like they're lining up for a dump farther towards the left. So you'll notice they're not dumping in the exact same spot every time. They're trying to spread it out. They're also not digging in the exact same spot every single time. If they spread out their digging, that will decrease the chances of creating a hole or a pit that can cause their mobility system, their drive wheels and chassis issues. It's pretty obvious when this team has filled up their bucket drum, because the material just pours out as it comes around the top. See, watch how much material pours out the top here as they drive forward. No, not that much. You can see from the side view through that plexiglass window that the drum is, I don't know, I want to call it almost half full, but that's just how much of the window is being covered. It really can't hold much more than that. When that drum is half full physically of actual material, it's probably design-wise full. Because as that drum spins, the front side of it picks up material. So if material is halfway in there, it's going to be picking that up as it spins and throwing it out the other side. So at some point, trying to put any more material inside there just doesn't work out too well. I bet if we look at the side view right now, we're going to see how buried those wheels are. These piles are pretty impressively high in the scoring zone, from what I can tell. Yeah, from the side view, you can see the tracks that were left behind. With 11 minutes remaining, University of Virginia is creating really good-sized piles in the scoring zone. I suspect that in their last 10 minutes of this run, they'll probably start dumping over in that far left side of the scoring zone to spread out their their scoring material appropriately. I did notice it kind of got hung up a few times. I wonder, I kind of think that maybe they're in the harder stuff by now. And so it's possible that this team is going to have to be less aggressive now that they're a little bit deeper and they've hit the part of the regular simulant that's quite a bit harder. Ooh. Now there is a rock there that I don't believe this robot would be comfortable driving over, so they're definitely staying to the right of that rock, which is limiting their possible excavation zone, their excavation area. They're kind of only using about half of the total possible excavation area, and that's due to a pretty good sized rock on the far right of the screen and a medium-sized rock on the kind of in the middle of the screen, but to the left of the robot. This one's going pretty deep. I'm impressed. They are getting bound up every once in a while and having to relieve the pressure pushing down on that drum. You can see the digging path that's left behind. It's a nice smooth digging path, and you can kind of see it has an edge. It might be an inch deep or so. So they're definitely into the hard stuff, for sure. Yep, they're going on the far side of the deposit zone now. A clean deposit site. Yeah, from the side view you can see how tall those prior deposits are. They're more than halfway up the wheel diameter. Students in the control room are calm and cool. Just going through the motions, repeating this pattern, finding a spot to dig, slightly offset from the prior spot. They are aware of that rock. There's no question that they know about that rock. They have a similar camera view to ours that they have chosen to watch in the control room. Okay, so now they've turned their robot. Oh, I was wondering if they were going to dig sideways, but no, they were just transitioning to a different track so they didn't drive over the same track again. Just under 7 minutes for University of Virginia's first run. Anytime you see a smooth excavation path like that, you know things are working well. I don't know if they have a control system monitoring the height and making sure that it stays a certain depth, or if their students controlling the robot from a joystick are just really good about controlling the height of the dig as they go. All right, going back for some more digging. You can see in this view are the only folks that are in the arena during a run are our judges. And so these three people you see in this shot are all judges. These are not students. You can even see the judges' score sheet there on a clipboard. Under 5 minutes for Virginia in their first run. First run of 2 for all of these teams today. I think they may be full, but there's still plenty of time to go back for more after they dump this load. Here comes Virginia emptying their robot one more time. You can see some of the sensors on this robot in this overhead view. Got some cameras there. Okay, now they're picking a new spot, a brand new spot. They're going to the left of that rock. 3 minutes remaining. So this is actually very realistic for a lunar excavation robot. You're basically going to find an area that you won't necessarily find an area easily that has 0 rocks, but if you can find an area that has a minimal amount of rocks or a minimal amount of large rocks anyways, then make sure your robot can, have cameras, sensors, whatever is necessary to recognize those obstacles that you don't want to try and drive over or dig through, and just avoid them. Nothing wrong with that. This is actually very realistic to one possible future lunar excavation mission. Some teams are going to try and move these rocks out of their way to clear a path, and that's another possible solution that NASA might send to the moon. Which solution ends up scoring better in this competition might actually shed some light on which is the better option to actually send to the moon. So that brings up a good point, that one of the benefits to NASA of putting on this competition every year is we get a lot of different prototype lunar construction robots, excavation and construction robots every year. and we can see what works and what doesn't work, and we can take note of things that work and maybe take that back to the lab and maybe implement something similar. We can also maybe see something that doesn't work here and maybe take that back to the lab and maybe try to tweak it or improve it, or figure out what made it not work, and maybe come up with something unique that otherwise would have been just a throwaway idea. Okay, it looks like they're not going to try for another one. They only have 15 seconds left. So let's give University of Virginia a big hand for this big pile of lunar simulant that they've created. Good job, University of Virginia. They should be happy with that. All right, my notes say that University of Alabama is next. Hopefully that's correct. May take a few minutes before that run starts. There's lots of reset process that has to happen, not to mention getting the official scores, getting the laser scan of the Virginia run that just finished up. And so you definitely don't want to go anywhere. You want to watch University of Alabama run next. So maybe take a quick break and come back. Looks like we still have about 100 people watching the live stream. Let's see if we can get that number up. So if you haven't already advertised on your favorite social media account, link to our live stream, or at least a link to our Lunabotics webpage, which has a link to the live stream. You can publish the URL go.nasa.gov/Lunabotics and tell them that you're here competing or you're here watching and you want them to watch along with you. That would really be amazing. So we're going to just watch this team from Virginia as they pull the robot out of the bin, and we'll keep an eye open for the University of Alabama team to get their robot ready for their event coming up next. So don't go anywhere. Continue to watch right here NASA's 2025 Lunabotics competition, streaming live from NASA's Kennedy Space Center here in sunny Central Florida. Don't go anywhere.
It's a new era of pioneers, star sailors, thinkers, and adventurers.
Go. Prop, go. CD8, go. Fido, go. All right, folks, go for launch.
Our destiny is always to go and see what's further and what's next.
Fido,
What an exciting day at the Kennedy Space Center. You can see the Orion spaceship coming out of the ONC building where we've been assembling it for several years. As big a step as this is for us today in rolling out and starting the journey of Artemis 1 to the moon and beyond, we're really excited for this test program to get this vehicle flowing and to begin the next steps, which are to send humans back to the moon.
The twin sister of Apollo, Artemis is the name given to the program that will return humanity to the moon. And named after one of the largest constellations in the sky, Orion is the spacecraft destined to get us there. Through Artemis missions, NASA will land the first woman and the first person of color on the lunar surface. And these missions will allow us to explore more of the moon than ever before, paving the way for long-term presence in lunar orbit.
We're rolling the Orion spacecraft out, but it's beginning its journey. We're really kind of at the end of the building process and the beginning of getting ready to go fly.
But before Orion can travel to our nearest celestial body, it must first make a few pit stops along the way to fuel up and get ready for flight.
As we leave here today, we're going to go to a facility that'll fuel the spacecraft with the rocket fuels and propellants it needs. We'll put a launch abort system on. We'll send it out to be stacked in the rocket and launched. And it's really the last few yards of the game.
Orion's journey to the moon began on the bayou. NASA's Michoud Assembly Facility in New Orleans is where technicians with Lockheed Martin began welding the pieces of the spacecraft's underlying aluminum structure together. 1 year later, it arrived in Florida, taking up semi-permanent residence inside the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Engineers and technicians will spend the next years working almost around the clock, outfitting Orion with thousands of components and pushing the capsule through several rounds of rigorous testing as teams prepare for its flight around the moon. The first step, though, is the crew module's arrival.
When the crew module shows up here at the ONC building, it's really just a welded shell of the structure. When it gets here, we put it into a fixture called the bird cage tool, and we use that fixture to position and attach all of the mechanically attached primary and secondary structure for the crew module.
Part of that includes the heat shield, which protects the crew module as it blazes through Earth's atmosphere at astonishing speed as it returns home. Technicians with Lockheed bond those thermal protection system products onto the heat shield right here in the ONC. And they do the same for the crew module's forward bay cover.
We bond that on here, and basically this covers the forward bay of the crew module such that once we come back into the atmosphere, this gets jettisoned and all of the landing system, i.e. parachutes, get deployed and slow the crew module down so that when it touches down in the ocean, it's only going a few miles an hour.
With the primary and secondary structures all attached, the crew module is tested to see how everything holds up. Orion is pressurized, stressing the welds to ensure they'll hold up under the proper loading. Afterwards, non-destructive evaluation of those welds is conducted to check for any voids or cracks. Once the structure is deemed strong enough, the crew module is moved just a few spaces down into the ONC's clean room for its next round of integrations.
We bring that structure into our clean room, which is you see behind me, because we need to start integrating the propulsion system and elements of the environmental control and life support subsystems, and those systems require a cleaner environment than the one we're standing in out here.
When all of that is done, the crew module is on the move again to the crew module integration station. There, all of the electrical systems, including wire harnesses and avionics boxes that control the crew module's guidance, navigation, communications, and its power subsystems, are integrated. Next, it's time to bring the spacecraft to life.
We power it up, and then we go into a whole series of functional tests to make sure all the subsystems that we've integrated up to that point are functioning properly.
But the crew module isn't the only thing that makes up the Orion spacecraft.
All the people, the work, the components that have gone into this vehicle, it's just an amazing feat.
Teams also worked closely with the European Space Agency to build the service module, the element that will power Orion on its journey around the moon. Once that arrives from Bremen, Germany, Lockheed moves forward with integrating the two.
The service module has a very similar life cycle to the crew module. We build it up structurally, we integrate the propulsion system and the other fluid systems, and then we integrate it electrically and power it up and do functional tests on it. And when we have a full service module and a full crew module, then we stack the two together and we have what's called the crew service module for Artemis 1.
Under the Artemis program, NASA plans to not only return to the moon, but to use that as a stepping stone to go farther than any human has ever gone before, Mars. To get there, it's truly a cross-country and international effort among thousands of individuals.
When you consider all the people, you know, at the Johnson Space Center, Marshall Space Flight Center, all across the agency, SLS, Orion, the European Service Module, Boeing and their team, Lockheed Martin and their team, and to see all of that come together on that launch when we send it on its way to the moon, it's going to be absolutely amazing, and we're going to have a lot of really proud, happy people.
Building a spacecraft destined for deep space exploration from the ground up is no easy task. And the fact that these teams have been able to come together and do just that in the midst of a global pandemic is nothing short of amazing.
You know, it really is a testament to the workforce. If you think about what we've been through over the years that they've been putting this together, and particularly think about the environment that this team was dealing with. We're dealing with COVID, and we're asking these folks to come into work every day and finish the spacecraft so we can keep this mission going. And we're ready, and we're excited. And so as they turn this over to us, we're ready to get going.
And really, this is only the start of Orion's path to the pad.
It's a little hard to put into words when you think about the fact that we are in the first flow of what will be our nation's deep space exploration program. It hits you in the heart, and it really speaks to why we all are doing what we're doing.
I never thought as a little kid growing up I'd be part of something like this today. Now as a dad of two young girls, to be able to tell them what I do and to be able to have them someday watch the first woman stand on the moon is pretty amazing to me personally.
As the Orion spacecraft departs the ONC, its next stop is the Multi-Payload Processing Facility, or MPPF, where teams with NASA's Exploration Ground Systems and prime contractor Jacobs will perform the next set of milestones, fueling and servicing the spacecraft.
We have a few months of hard but rewarding work ahead of us to get to launch, but this is it. This is our year.
You're watching the Lunabotics finals event from 2025. On the screen, we are looking at the laser scan from the University of Virginia run. You can see very clearly the 3 piles that their robot has deposited. And this laser technology allows us to scan the surface before the run and after the run, and then perform some simple math, simple matrix math, right? To calculate the volume between the 2 scans. And that's pretty fun to look at the data in 3D. 3 obvious, pretty decent sized piles there. And in the arena, the judges are resetting the surface and getting ready for the next team, which is going to be the University of Alabama. They will be coming into the arena soon. Matter of fact, the students, the Alabama students and their robot are in the room right next to the arena, but the judges are not quite ready yet for them to bring their robot into the arena. So we will be looking forward to that in the next few minutes. So don't go anywhere, because you don't want to miss Alabama. They tend to have a strong showing in this competition. But honestly, we're down to the final 10 teams, right? The best 10 teams. So we expect strong showings from all 10 of these teams. witnessing here today, tomorrow, and Thursday. I did mention this earlier, but it's probably worth repeating that Lunabotics spans an entire school year for these teams. And it requires these students to apply NASA's systems engineering process in order to design, develop, build, and test their prototype lunar robots. Throughout the year, the school year, these student teams have to prove to our judging staff that they are progressing throughout the school year. And so all of these student teams have previously submitted STEM engagement reports to show our judging staff how they have engaged and interacted and educated students about their robot. They have submitted presentation and demonstration slides. They've submitted systems engineering papers and proof of life videos. All of this work, all of these submitted deliverables before ever being allowed to compete here with their robots. I mentioned a couple times that the Lunabotics competition, the actual process, requires these college and university students to actually apply NASA's systems engineering process. But I haven't really explained what that means. Systems engineering, if you're not familiar, focuses on designing and building and managing complex systems. And since rockets are complex systems, spacecraft, satellites, interplanetary robots, these are all pretty complex systems. Turns out that NASA has become pretty proficient at using a systems engineering process. And so that is why we're teaching these students the systems engineering process. What you're seeing on the screen is our arena, our simulated regolith arena that is full of tons and tons and tons of simulated lunar soil. There's a scientific word we use when we refer to lunar soil. We usually call it regolith in the space industry. It's a kind of a fancy word, but it really just means soil on another planetary body, and that's any place other than Earth. So the moon has regolith, Mars has regolith, but you can really just think of it as moon dirt or Mars dirt. On Earth, we only have a small amount of actual regolith that was returned from the moon back in the 70s during the Apollo program. And we don't have any samples on Earth of Mars regolith. Not yet, anyways. And so what we're testing these robots in is a bed of simulated lunar regolith rather than using the real thing. But if I slip and call it regolith this week, forgive me. But it is obviously simulated lunar regolith. I mentioned earlier that our simulated lunar regolith is volcanic rock that's been crushed to a fine powder. And it turns out that's actually a pretty decent stand-in for lunar soil. I've mentioned a couple of times different trade-offs that these student teams have to make when designing their robots. All of these student team solutions vary from one another. Each team tries to think outside the box and come up with new ways to solve the problem of digging lunar soil and then constructing berm structures or hills out of that excavated material. And these student teams each year perform full-blown system designs complete with engineering trade-offs. They don't just throw a bunch of stuff together and hope for the best. And the rules of this competition really truly encourage the teams to perform these engineering design trade-offs. And so this competition really does teach these students about real-life engineering processes, because engineering in real life is actually a mix of following a strict logical process combined with creativity and out-of-the-box thinking and trying crazy ideas. And that's what these students end up doing each year in order to compete in this event. One example of an engineering trade-off that all teams have to perform for this competition is a size trade. The rules do require that each team solution has to fit inside a box, a literal box, that's 1.5 meters by 3/4 of a meter by 3/4 of a meter. That's roughly 5 feet by 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet. And that physical size of all of these robots is a hard limit. So the various solutions that each team comes up with has to somehow fit within that physical size. If not, then that idea just has to be abandoned. Another example of a trade that these students have to perform is the weight of their solution. The Lunabotics rules state that the weight of these robots has to be 80 kilograms or less. That's about 175 pounds. So any ideas or solutions that a team comes up with has to end up weighing 80 kilograms or less. If not, they won't be allowed to compete. So looking at just these two rules, the size limit and the weight limit, those two rules work together and they limit the onboard power of these solutions. It makes sense that batteries tend to be heavy in general. So teams have to trade off how much of their total 80 kilogram total mass that they're going to allow for batteries so that they reserve enough mass for the rest of their robot. Another big design trade-off for teams is that they all have the option of making their solution actually quite a bit lighter than the 80 kilogram maximum weight if they want. And so a team might do this on purpose because the largest portion of their score, which actually a full 50% of their score, is based on how big of a berm they create divided by the mass of their robot, plus how big of a berm they create divided by the power used by the robot. So in other words, a majority of the score isn't just based on the size of the berm they create, but it's based on the size of the berm they create as compared to their robot's size and power. So that means a smaller, lighter robot that uses less power, but is still capable of creating a reasonable